I never expected a broken bracelet to reveal a love story that would change everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The skies were dark, swirling with ominous clouds, and I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. My heart raced as I stood outside my grandmother's house, the air thick with tension. It was the day she passed away, and that's when the bracelet shattered. As I sifted through her belongings, my trembling hand stumbled upon the delicate silver bracelet tucked away in a velvet box. It was beautiful, adorned with small intricate charms that jingled softly as I lifted it. But the moment I clasped it around my wrist, I felt a sharp crack, a fracture that echoed through my entire being. Tears streamed down my face as I stared at the fractured metal. It was a stark metaphor for my life, like the pulse of my heart, racing away from me. My grandmother had always praised the power of love, saying it was an unstoppable force. Little did I know, this tiny broken piece would lead me to an astonishing revelation about her past. Every charm had a story, and as I wiped my tears, each piece came alive with vivid memories. There was the tiny heart, crafted with such care it shimmered even in dim light. The star-shaped charm, a nod to her love for stargazing on clear nights, and a delicate key that symbolized a secret love she had never spoken of. I felt a strange connection to these relics. A pull. A mystery just waiting to be unraveled, but in that moment of discovery, shadows loomed. The storm outside rumbled, echoing the chaos in my chest. I wasn't just mourning her loss, I was grappling with the secrets she'd never shared. My mother burst into the room, her face twisted with a mix of sorrow and anger. "What are you doing with that?" she shrieked, her voice sharp enough to cut through the silence. The bracelet slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the floor like my heart. And in that fractured instant, I realized this wasn't just a simple heirloom. It was a doorway to a love story buried under years of silence. A story that could change everything I thought I knew. As I bent to pick up the bracelet, my mother's eyes hardened. "You have no idea what you're getting into." I gripped the charms tightly, the cold metal biting into my skin. What did she know? What had Grandma hidden? A single thunderclap shook the house. I froze, the question burning in my mind like a fuse ready to explode. What secrets lay within that broken bracelet? And would seeking the truth tear apart our already fragile family? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My heart pulsed inside my chest, echoing the intensity of the storm outside. The thunder's roar seemed to match the turmoil in my mind, questions clawing at me like the wind swirling around the house. All I could think about was my mother, her sudden anger like a stone dropped into still water, rippling across the fragile surface of our family. "Just leave it," she shouted, her eyes glistening with tears, but they were mixed with frayed edges of rage. I clutched the bracelet to my chest as if it were some talisman, a piece of Grandma's essence pulsing within me. "Why can't you understand? It means something." But my words got lost in the electric air thick with unspoken words and resentments. The shadows flickered across the room as the power flickered, casting a gloomy haze around us. My mother turned away, and I was left standing there both angered and aching, wanting to shout that all I wanted was to know my grandmother the way she had known her. I stepped outside onto the porch, seeking refuge from the pressure engulfing the house. Rain streaked down, mingling with my tears, blurring everything. It was chaos, nature roared, and I felt like an island amid a tempest. I ran my fingers over the charms on the bracelet, the cool metal grounding me, reminding me of Grandma's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, the whispers of love she had shared. Then came a soft voice nearby, calling out my name amidst the storm. Are you okay? It was Sam, my best friend, standing at the edge of the yard with worry etched across his face. He had come over after seeing the storm unfold, sensing my need for comfort. I gestured weakly, half worried that I might shatter again in front of him. "Come here," he urged, stepping close, hands ready to pull me into a comforting embrace. I didn't hesitate. I melted into his arms, the rain soaking us both, but I didn't care. "What happened?" he asked softly after a moment. I could hear genuine concern laced within his question, a small light piercing the storm cloud around us. That I pulled back just enough to look into his concerned eyes, the wild curls of his dark hair sticking to his forehead, the way he always seemed so calm amidst chaos. "It's my grandmother. Her bracelet broke as I held it, and my mom reacted like I'd unleashed a curse. It feels like there's a whole other world hidden inside a love story, secrets, and my mother just wants to bury it all." "Secrets can be heavy," Sam said gently, brushing a stray tear from my cheek. "But sometimes," he continued, "they are meant to be shared. Maybe your grandma wanted to tell you before it was too late." Hope flickered in my heart, mingling with dread. "But what if it changes everything?" I whispered, more afraid of the truth than the secrets I felt I was meant to protect. "Sometimes everything needs to change so something better can grow in its place," he said wisely, squeezing my shoulder. In that moment, his steadfastness seemed to wrap around me like a shield against the storm of my thoughts. As the rain fell heavier, I took a deep breath, drawing strength from Sam's presence. "You really think I should dig deeper?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Absolutely. And it'll help you. Whatever you decide to do, you're not alone." With that, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. Perhaps I could face the hidden relics of my grandmother's heart and discover what she had cherished so dearly. But as the storm began to dissipate slightly, a creeping sense of dread enveloped me again. What if my mother's fear ran deeper than I assumed? What if unveiling these stories unleashed a reality I simply wasn't prepared to face? When darkness finally fell, we stood side by side, staring at the remnants of a storm, the sky illuminated by fleeting flashes of light. Then, in the stillness, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a relentless notification shattering the moment. It felt like a new storm brewing inside. Dread clawed at my heart as I read the message from an unknown number. "I know what you're looking for. Meet me tomorrow at the park, and it'll tell you everything." Stunned, I stumbled backward, eyes flicking to Sam, who watched me with concern. Would unraveling the truth tear at the very fabric of our family? What had Grandma meant to protect? As the adrenaline coursed through me, I stood at a precipice, finally reaching out for the love story woven through the cracks of a broken bracelet. And yet, fear coiled around me. I was delving into a forgotten past, and the storm was only just beginning. The next day dawned gray and bitterly cold, the remnants of the storm still lingering in the air like uninvited guests. I awoke with a sense of urgency pressing against my chest, an invisible weight pulling me toward the unknown. The message from the night before replayed in my mind like an unending echo, casting a shadow over everything else. Breakfast passed in a blur. My mother's demeanor was tight-lipped, tension wrapping itself around her like an old, familiar shawl. She avoided my gaze as she sipped her coffee, her fingers drumming nervously against the table. I wondered if she had sensed my turmoil, the way I felt tethered to each passing moment, each tick of the clock. "Are you going anywhere today?" she finally ventured, her eyes darting to the door, then back to her half-eaten toast. That I hesitated. Part of me wanted to confide in her, lay bare the strange message I had received. But what good would it do? If anything, it would only ignite her anger or shut down our already fractured relationship further. So instead, I replied, "Just meeting a friend." "All right," she said, her voice strained, the word dangling in the air like a fragile whisper. I braced myself, waiting for the familiar storm to break, but the moment passed without incident. As I trudged toward the park later that afternoon, every step felt like an act of rebellion against the fear pulsing through me. The chill in the air matched the uncertainty clouding my mind. I kept wondering who had sent that text and what they could know about my grandmother's past that was hidden so closely behind our family's walls. Reaching the park, I scanned the area, taking in the somber gray sky that reflected my mood. A cool breeze rustled the leaves, and as I stepped further in, I felt a tremor of hope mixed with anxiety wash over me. And then I saw him, an older man seated on a bench, a long coat draped over his shoulders, his hat tipped forward obscuring his face. Approaching cautiously, I noticed a familiar glint in his hands as he toyed with something shiny. "You must be Emily," he stated, his voice low and gravelly, yet warm. There was something in his intonation that felt oddly comforting. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as I tried to gauge his intentions. He nodded, slowly revealing his face, lined with age and haunted by memories. "I'm a friend of your grandmother. Her stories didn't end, at least not in the way your mother believes. I have something for you." He opened his palm to reveal a delicate silver key, worn at the edges but still gleaming. My heartbeat quickened. "What is this? Why did you want to meet me?" "There's a box. Your grandmother entrusted me to keep it safe. It contains memories, letters, pieces of her heart." His gaze bore into mine, sincere and unwavering. "She wanted you to have it one day, but your mother, she was afraid." I saw her fear. "But your heart and hers are entwined in ways you don't yet understand." "What do you mean?" I pressed, hope battling against the looming dread. "Before her death, your grandmother left me details about a life she lived beyond the confines of your family. A love story that was never told because she wanted to protect you." He took a deep breath, his voice heavy with sincerity. "You deserve to know the woman she was, not just the one your mother envisioned." My mind raced as I processed his words. Excitement surged within me, but so did an undercurrent of anxiety. But what if it changes everything? I managed to ask that. He offered a faint smile, filled with understanding. "Sometimes we must confront the past to move forward. Your grandmother believed in breaking the silence that shrouded her heart. Can you do the same?" As I took the key from his palm, warmth enveloped me. It was more than a metal object, it was a lifeline connecting me to my grandmother and a promise of truths waiting to be unearthed. The wind picked up, swirling leaves around us, a tangible reminder of the storm brewing within my soul. "Where do I find this box?" I asked, my heart racing. "The details are imprinted within her stories. You'll discover it where the sun kisses the earth at dusk," he replied cryptically, standing. "Trust your heart, Emily. But remember, every secret comes with shadows that follow close." As he walked away, a mixture of excitement and fear settled deeply inside me. I held the key tightly in my hand, its coldness grounding me in reality. Suddenly, my phone buzzed violently. Heart in my throat, I looked down at a message from my mother. "I need to talk to you now." An icy chill swept through me, intertwining with the warmth of the key, making my fingers tremble. Had she found out about my meeting? Was this the confrontation I had dreaded? As I turned, the park's entryway seeming infinitely farther than when I had entered, I realized I stood at a crossroads. Would I continue this quest for the truth of my grandmother's life, even if it meant shattering everything I thought I knew? Or would I retreat back to the safety of familiar lies? The storm may have passed, but in my heart, I knew a far greater one was looming just on the horizon. The weight of the silver key felt heavier in my pocket with every step I took toward home, its cold surface a stark contrast against the warmth of my racing heart. With each ring of my phone, the reality of my mother's message loomed larger, striking fear into the depths of my being. This was not just a simple conversation, it felt like a reckoning. The truth I had uncovered was a fragile butterfly ready to take flight, and yet I feared the crushing weight of her reality would ground it forever. As I approached our house, the familiar silhouette wore an unsettling aura, shadows creeping across the pavement like dark tendrils reaching for me. I paused at the door, breathing in a shaky breath. Whether I was ready or not, I was on the verge of stepping into a storm, one that could expose familial truths long buried beneath layers of denial. "Emily?" My mother's voice pulled me from my thoughts as I crossed the threshold. She stood in the living room, arms crossed tightly against her chest, her face a landscape of suppressed emotions. "We need to talk," that I swallowed hard, feeling the tidal of unease ripple through the air. "About what?" "About your grandmother." The tension hung thick, words ready to claw their way out of her throat. "I heard you were with someone today. Someone who knows more than he should." Each syllable landed like a weighty stone in the pit of my stomach. "What do you mean? Who did you hear it from?" My mother's eyes flared, but just as quickly shut down, leaving a world of unspoken pain behind them. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you need to understand how dangerous it is to dig into her past." "Dangerous? Why?" I felt the surface of my memories scratching to the forefront, dreams of my grandmother's laughter, fragmented stories of her life long before the confines of our family narrative. "I met someone who has a box of her memories. Something she wanted me to have." I watched her face, looking for hints of a long-lost softness, but the lines etched upon it revealed a battle shed fought valiantly yet uneasily. "Emily, she had reasons for keeping secrets. They were to protect you," she said finally, though her voice quivered. "There's so much you don't understand. It tore our family apart before it could ever build itself again." That I took a breath, thoughts rushed and swirling like leaves caught in a whirlwind. But what if those secrets are a part of me? What if they can explain who I am? "The key, Mom." I hesitated, knowing it was both a lifeline and a threat. "The key might lead me to understanding her better than any stoic memory you hold." For a moment, silence enveloped us thickly. She opened her mouth, looking pained as if each word scratched her very soul. "Sometimes knowledge is a painful thing, Emily. Sometimes it can shatter everything you thought was real. Maybe shattering the illusions we've built is the only way to become whole again," I whispered, my voice barely audible, each word a tentative bridge across our chasm. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw something shift in her expression, the walls that stranded her heart momentarily cracking under the gaze of shared vulnerability. But before I could catch that glimmer, it vanished, replaced by steely resolve. "You have to let it go. Leave the past in the past," "But I can't." I felt the sorrow rise in me, hot and purposeful. "You can't ask me to do that. I'm not you. I need to follow this lead. I need to know my grandmother's truth." She turned away, her hands shaking as if grappling with an unseen weight. "You think the truth will set you free? The truth can bind just as tightly. I can't bear to watch you put yourself into that storm." I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stumbled and fell away, buried beneath the echoes of our shared silence. "What if I get hurt?" she whispered faintly, her voice barely carrying across to me. As I searched her eyes, trying to find remnants of the mother I once knew, I felt the key press against my thigh, a reminder that I had a choice. But with that choice came the pulse of history, hers, mine, and my grandmother's intertwined, ready to unravel. With every breath we took, the storm had transformed that day, shifting into something palpable. We were no longer at a simple crossroads, we were standing at the edge of a cliff, shadows stretching long and deep, and the weight of generations hung heavily between us. "Mom, I have to do this," I pleaded, my voice steadier now. "But if I'm going to face the consequences of your truth, I need you with me. I can't do this alone." The silence that followed seemed eternal, thick as molasses. Just when it felt as if hope might be slipping through my fingers, the doorbell rang out, shattering the moment between us. I glanced at her, tension thrumming in the air, and moved toward the door, heart racing, knowing whatever lay behind it could change everything. As I opened it, the figure standing on the other side sent a chill rippling through me, the stranger's presence echoing the dark, complex history we were about to confront. "Emily?" he asked, an urgent desperation edging his voice. "I need to talk to you. It's about your grandmother and the secrets that could endanger you." In that moment, with the door half open and my mother's breaths heavy behind me, I felt the magnitude of the truth I was about to face, whether I was ready for it or not. The storm was no longer on the horizon, it was here, and it was fierce. The intrusive light of the hallway fluorescent flickered above us, casting a surreal glow over the three of us, me, my mother, and the stranger, a nameless shadow suddenly threading himself into our story. I stood frozen by the door, heartbeat drumming in my ears and mingling with the weight of my mother's unyielding silence. She hovered behind me, a figure of caution against the uncertainty enveloping us. The stranger's eyes, dark and searching, held mine with an intensity that both unsettled and intrigued me. "I am Alex," he said, his voice laced with urgency. "I need to speak to you about your grandmother's past. It's more important than you realize." A million questions flickered through my mind, struggling to assert themselves above the fear and hope swirling within me. "What do you know about her?" I managed, glancing back at my mother. She was tense, standing rigid as if ready to block any further entry into our fragile world. "Can we come in?" Alex asked, his tone subdued yet insistent. My eyes darted to my mother, whose hesitation was palpable, the storm within her brewing to a tempest. An agonizing moment passed before she stepped back, allowing him inside, her shadow cast longer than ever. Once I closed the door behind us, the air turned electric. "You don't know how much trouble you could be in," he said intensely, glancing quickly at my mother, who narrowed her eyes at him as if he carried a hidden blade in his words. "I don't need a lecture," I shot back, suddenly defensive. I saw her retreat into a shell of guarded protection, and I didn't want to be reminded of that brittle veneer. "Just tell me what you know." "Your grandmother was involved in something significant. Something that not only affected her but could also have consequences for you." His gaze shifted to my mother, a challenge lingering unspoken in the air. "She kept secrets, but they weren't just to protect herself. They were to keep you safe from the fallout." "That I can handle the fallout," I insisted, defiance roaring to life within me. "What does all of this even mean?" A tremor ran through Alex as he hesitated. "It means that there are people who want to silence the truth. People who will go to great lengths to ensure that the secrets remain buried." His words hung heavy, stoking my anger, which struggled to mix with the fear that crept coldly against my skin. "And you're one of those people?" my mother interjected, voice brittle with tangible distrust. Alex clenched and unclenched his fists, his vulnerability flickering past his resolve. "No. I'm not. I'm here to warn you," he said earnestly. "Your grandmother didn't just vanish into obscurity. She was escaping something dangerous. Something I'm beginning to uncover, but it's risky for me to be involved, and I'm supposed to just trust you?" I felt the sting of skepticism rise, bitter on my tongue. "You could be lying. Trust isn't given lightly, Emily. I can prove it." He paused, clearly deliberating over whether to step closer to the unknown. "There's something I have, something your grandmother left behind. It might just save you." My breath quickened again as I felt the weight of his words. "What is it?" He slowly reached into his jacket, pulling out a fragile silver bracelet, the glint of tarnished metal catching both our eyes. My heart raced as I recognized the piece from fragmented memories, the sunlight glimmering against the laughter of a woman who was both my past and my ghost. "This was your grandmother's," he said softly. "She wore it during some dark moments, and there's something about its design that holds the key to understanding what she went through." The room felt as if it had pivoted, realigning itself around the possibilities of this revelation. My mother's guarded expression flickered, betraying a vulnerability I had rarely seen in her since everything fell apart. "What does it tell us?" I looked at Alex, pleading for guidance, events unfolding around me, curling the storm tighter as I stepped deeper into the chaos. I reached for the bracelet, fingertips brushing against the cold metal, feeling the vibrational history resonating within it. "There are engravings, symbols you need to decipher. They could lead you to her truth, but," he hesitated, "they could also put you directly in the line of fire." "I don't care." I found myself yelling, the release of pent-up frustration breaking through. "I'm tired of being in the shadows of my family's lies. If it's dangerous, then let it be dangerous, Emily." My mother's voice broke through the whirlwind rage, fear lacing her words. "You don't know what you're doing. I have to know." I shouted back, my voice echoing in the small space, the uproar of emotions boiling over. "If this is all I have to connect to her, to the truth of who we are, then I refuse to run away, not anymore." "What if?" my mother began, but Alex stepped forward, cutting through our argument. "Listen," he said, urgency sharpening his tone. There's more at stake than just your curiosity. If you decide to pursue this, whatever you find could alter everything. You risk not just your safety, but your family, your mother, everything you hold dear. Suddenly, Alex's phone buzzed violently against the wood of the table. He glanced at the screen, color draining from his face. "I have to go," he said, panic chasing his features. "I'm being watched." "Wait, you can't." But he was already moving, addressing my mother in hurried whispers. "You both need to be careful. The truth isn't just painful, it can be lethal." "That I am not afraid," I asserted defiantly, though my heart raced at the could-be consequences of my words. As Alex slipped out of our front door, I felt a swelling of confusion and purpose. My mother followed him with eyes wide, filled with a mix of recognition, disbelief, and fear. The storm I had anticipated was only just beginning to swirl, and while logic urged caution, a deeper urge thirsted for revelation. Then, without warning, there was a sudden pounding on the front door, loud, forceful. My heart seized. What now? My mother's eyes shot to mine, fear morphing into something darker. "Emily, we need to hide now." In an instant, the world around me shrank. My grandmother's secrets, the bracelet now clutched tightly in my hand, Alex's warning. The door vibrated from the intensity on the other side, and the air thickened as if warning us of the impending eruption. With no time to think, I grabbed my mother's hand, tugging her toward the shadows of our dimly lit home, knowing that whatever lay ahead would only tangle our lives further into the web of hidden truths and lurking dangers. The storm had met its breaking point, yet I couldn't help but wonder if this was merely the prelude to the chaos waiting to engulf us. The pounding on the door intensified, each thud resonating deep within my chest as if it were a drum signaling the arrival of something dark and inevitable. I dragged my mother into the small adjacent room, a cozy recluse filled with the comforting scent of old books mingled with heartache. My heart raced, the weight of the silver bracelet heavy in my hand. "Emily," my mother hissed, her voice quivering like a taut string, "you must stay quiet." I nodded, adrenaline coursing through my veins, but the urgency that drove me felt mixed with dread. The two truths I had learned about courage and vulnerability intertwined in a twisting knot within me. I had sought answers, and now I was faced with the consequences. "Hurry," she whispered, pointing at the small closet in the corner. I squeezed inside with her, the cramped space encasing us in a shroud of darkness. My heart pounded so loud I feared it would give us away. From our hiding spot, we could hear muffled voices from the hallway, a low murmur followed by the sharp snap of a command. The unmistakable presence of authority wrapped itself around each syllable. "Search the house. We need to ensure she isn't here." From the whispers, a specific name caught my ear: Emily. My breath caught in my throat, a wave of panic flooding through me as I knew they weren't merely searching for my grandmother's past. They were searching for me. "Mom, what do they want?" I murmured, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. I glanced at her face, now illuminated only by the faint shadows cast from beneath the door, and the lines of worry etched deeper into her features sent a shiver cascading through my spine. "That I don't know," she whispered, her brow furrowed as she leaned in closer. "But we can't let them find you." The door creaked slowly, and I stifled a gasp, my fingers interlacing with the cold metal of the bracelet. A dark figure silhouetted against the wall edged closer, the sound of footsteps accompanied by the palpable tension in the air. "Secure the perimeter," a voice commanded, cold and efficient. It sent a chill down my spine. "No one gets in or out until we find what we're looking for. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," another voice echoed, shaky yet compliant. They were serious. They were looking for someone, and it was clear they'd stop at nothing to find them. Nothing to find me. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps receded slightly, but the voices lingered, a whispered collection of fear and frustration. My mother squeezed my hand tighter, her anxiety shifting the air around us, thick with unspoken truths. "What do we do?" I whispered into the darkness, desperation clawing at my throat. "We wait and be silent. If we make a sound." She didn't need to finish that thought. The implication hung in the air like an unshakable shadow. I caught movement outside the closet, shadows flitting across the sliver of light beneath the door, and held my breath, forcing myself to remain still. The gnawing fear kept rising, mixing with a tangled sense of purpose. I needed to know what they were after. And then, just as quickly as the dread descended, a sliver of defiance flickered to life within me. Would anyone truly confront those who scared me? I clutched the bracelet, the cruel irony that it linked me to my grandmother's secrets now a lifeline tethering me to bravado. Hours seemed to stretch as we crouched in the darkness, time splintering into a kaleidoscope of dread and determination. I could hear the voices growing quieter, retreating, and then I felt the weight of my mother's hand loosen its grip. "Come on," she said finally, pulling the closet door open just a crack. I peered into the dim light of the living room beyond, scanning for any sign of danger. "Is it clear?" I asked tentatively, brushing against the cool metal of the bracelet one last time. She nodded, but as we slipped out, a sharp sound interrupted the thick silence, something smaller falling to the ground, a faint metallic clatter cutting through our momentary calm. The adrenaline surged once again, but before I could react, my mother turned to face me, her back rigid. As she stared into the darkness of the apartment. "You stay behind me," she whispered, her voice firm yet holding that thread of worry that implied there was so much more at stake than either of us could comprehend. Our bodies moved hesitantly into the living room, but as I glanced toward the front door, a shadow shifted again, a silhouette blocking the light. "Who's there?" A voice boomed, filled with the steely edge of authority. Panic widened in my chest, and instinctively, I thrust the bracelet into my mother's hand, urging her to hide it. If they were looking for me, the last thing they needed was to tie me to my grandmother. "Run," she mouthed, urgency threading through her expression. I could see the remaining hope flicker in her eyes, the guardian instinct resurfacing, but this wasn't just about survival, it was about knowing the truth that had been kept from us for so long. But before I could move, the figure lunged forward, and the last sight I caught was the flash of a badge catching light, and then darkness swallowed my vision as I stumbled backward, a sharp jolt of terror surging through me. Everything fell silent around me as I finally gasped for breath, caught between the warmth of memories and the chill of impending danger. The air thickened, a swirling vortex of fear and determination, echoing my heart's frantic pounding for clarity. Just as I reached for my mother's hand, a harsh laugh sliced through the air. "That we finally meet, Emily. You've been quite the elusive one." And suddenly, amidst all the confusion, I recognized the voice, a tone steeped in familiarity, yet layered with malice. And in that instant, a treacherous whisper of realization washed over me like a frigid wave. Whatever they wanted, it was tied into the very legacy I sought to uncover. The revelation was horridly intertwined with my grandmother's past, and mine was only just beginning. The world spun back into focus as the light spilled into my vision, illuminating the living room once more. My heart thundered in my chest, a cacophony that drowned out the mirthful laughter of the figure before me. Standing there, menacing yet somehow familiar, was a man whose presence sparked a cocktail of dread and misplaced nostalgia. "Your legacy is as much mine as it is yours, Emily," he uttered, his voice dripping with a combination of authority and venom. I gaped at him, engulfed in confusion. "Who are you?" He stepped further into the light, a smirk painting his lips like a twisted illusion of warmth. "Didn't you ever wonder who really holds the key to your grandmother's past? For someone looking for answers, you're woefully uninformed." My mother's grip tightened on my wrist, her eyes wide with apprehension. "Henry," she breathed, the name barely more than a whisper, but it shattered the silence like glass. "Horrifying, isn't it?" he continued, unfurling a paternalistic demeanor that made my skin crawl. "To know that the monsters in your story are those you've trusted most. It's all part of the game." He looked between us, savoring the moment, relishing our discomfort. "And you're right on the edge of losing everything, dear Emily, don't you dare come any closer." I spat, although my voice quivered, revealing the tremors beneath my bravado. I felt trapped in a web spun from secrets and the history I had longed to unveil. He chuckled, a low sound that seemed to reverberate through my bones. "Do you really think this is about your grandmother's life? It's far more than that. The lives entwined with hers have woven a tapestry that leads directly to you if you just knew how to look at him." My mind rushed back to the bracelet, its cool touch still etched in my palm. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, desperate for clarity, for a foothold on this shaky cliff of uncertainty. "Ah, the bracelet," he said, eyes glinting like shards of ice. "You think it's a mere trinket? A relic of a bygone era? No, my dear. It's far more powerful than you can comprehend." His gaze shifted to my mother, whose face paled further, silent terror radiating from her. "What have you done?" she whispered vehemently, the urgency of her words thick with the weight of a hidden past. Instead of responding, he chuckled softly to himself, as if relishing the tension that hung in the air. "I didn't take your mother's secrets, they were a legacy bestowed upon me. The truth is, hidden beneath layers of pain, you hold the remaining pieces." What was he saying? Questions flared in my mind like fireworks, illuminating glimpses of betrayal. "What do you want with me?" "To finish what was started long ago," he replied, his voice slipping into a conspiratorial tone. "Your grandmother was a part of something magnificent, a movement that thrived on secrets and misdirection. She left breadcrumbs that only a worthy descendant could follow, and you, Emily, have a choice in this story. You can embrace your inheritance or, like shadows in the night, allow it to swallow you whole." The ominous weight of his words pressed against my chest, suffocating the coil of hope I carried. Instead of driving me away, they pulled me closer, an invitation to the unknown. "What do you mean?" I felt small, yet inside I stirred with an emboldened flicker of curiosity. "What is it that I need to discover?" His eyes narrowed, calculating my reaction like a predator sizing up its prey. "Every piece of history must face its truth, and it will certainly reveal itself if you're ready. The bracelet holds the key, or rather, the key holds the weapon to your family's legacy. You must decide, Emily. For now, though, it'd be unwise to remain here." In that moment, the silence was punctuated by the unmistakable sound of sirens approaching in the distance. My heart raced again, this time not merely out of fear but a strange mixture of anxiety and electric anticipation. My pulse quickened. The world outside was closing in, and I could feel the urgency pulling at me like the tide. "Come with me, and perhaps you'll discover something worth the fight," Henry said, gesturing towards the door that loomed like a gateway to a different life. A flicker of resistance sparked within my mother. "Stay away from her." But I caught something deeper in Henry's eyes, a spark of understanding that hinted at shared pains and truths that haunted both our families. I would be lying if I didn't feel a lure of kinship, an urge to understand why I felt inexplicably tied to him, even when everything warned me against it. But just as I stepped towards the door with Henry, my mother's voice broke through the chaos, echoing with a desperate intensity. "Emily, you must remember who you are. This is a trap." In that moment of conflict, I spun back towards her, uncertainty sharp on my tongue. "What if he's telling the truth?" "Emily!" she shouted, a mix of anger and desperation burning in her voice. "You can't trust him. Please." The sirens grew louder, chilling reality cutting through the thick confusion. The air felt electric, charged with potential, a crossroads where one choice could spiral into an unfathomable fate. Behind me was the promise of knowing the truth, and ahead was the looming danger of the unknown, drawing closer with each heartbeat. "Emily, choose." I stood at the threshold, the weight of expectation heavy on my shoulders, as Henry smiled, his face already a mask of triumph. Among the choices, one burning truth flared hotter than the rest: the secrets of the past may very well guard the keys to my future, and the love story hidden within might just change everything. And then, in the dim light of the living room, the door swung wide open, revealing a world irrevocably altered, hanging by the thinnest thread of resolve. The door creaked as it swung open, revealing an abyss of darkness that swallowed the warm light of the living room. Outside, the night felt alive, a pulsating wilderness filled with shadowy figures and whispering winds. A chill settled over me, juxtaposing the swirling emotions within. The sirens wailed in the background, drawing ever closer, looming like the specters of my unresolved past. In that moment, I felt the echoes of my grandmother's legacy pressing against my heart, pulling me toward the unknown. I turned once more to my mother, desperation etched into her features. Each breath she took seemed to resonate with unspoken truths. Even with Henry's proposition shimmering with the allure of secrets long hidden, the instinct to protect and the bond of unconditional love rugged like a familiar tune. Emily, please. You have to listen to me. My mother's voice cracked, a sound so vulnerable it sliced through the thick tension. It reminded me of all those moments when I had clutching her hand tightly, feeling the warmth of her presence during storms of childhood fears. She was my anchor, and despite Henry's magnetic pull, all I wanted was her reassurance that we could face anything together. What if what he says holds pieces of our past? I asked hesitantly. He is not the answer, she replied, her tone sharper yet laced with a sorrow that made my heart pang. Everything that glitters is not gold, my sweet Emily. Henry represents the very things we've been running from, a most tangled web of lies and dangers too profound for you to fathom. I can't lose you too. Fear welled up inside me, tainting the moments of hope I had clung to as I wavered between two realities. My skin prickled with uncertainty as I met Henry's unwavering gaze. But I need to know. I need to discover the truth regardless of its cost, don't you understand? The truth holds power, yes, but it also can destroy you, especially in the hands of someone like him. My mother argued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Waves of emotions crashed against the walls of my resolve, longing, fear, curiosity mingled with love and desperation. How could I reconcile the pull of destiny with the familiar arms of caution? At that instant, a surprising sound stirred the air, a soft, timid scratching at the window. We turned in unison, startled by the intrusion. There, clinging to the glass with inquisitive eyes, was a small tabby cat. It was vulnerable yet filled with a peculiar spark of defiance. It mewed gently, as if sensing the turmoil within me, and at that moment, a strange connection tethered me to it. Perhaps I started, pondering the unexpected kindness of the tiny creature. Sometimes hope comes in the smallest forms. Henry watched, amusement shading his icy demeanor. But there was something different in his expression, almost as if the cat's presence had nudged the edges of his carefully constructed facade. Hiding from reality will not protect you, he taunted lightly, yet there was a flicker of contradiction in his tone. You'll find no safety in the condescending arms of that feline. I stepped toward the window, cautiously. The little cat seemed to embody a sense of resilience, and its steadfastness ignited an ember within me, reminding me that all I held dear was still worth fighting for. You're all trying to protect me, I said, gazing at my mother with newfound determination, but I can't be afraid of the truth or of the lessons that come from it. The tension in the room thickened, and Henry's smile widened. Then let me help you navigate it, Emily. Don't let your mother's fear chain you down. I extend my hand to unlock the potential within you, he urged, gesturing to the alleyway beyond the door that felt like a threshold to other worlds. But just as I made my decision, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the night like thunder rolling down a mountain. The windows trembled, and the ground shook beneath our feet. Emily! My mother's scream pierced the air, raw and panicked as the world around us threatened to collapse. Stay back! Time slowed as I watched a figure emerge from the shadows beyond the doorways, low yet deliberate. Panic clawed at my heart. It wore a dark overcoat, its face obscured by a hood. Who are you? I stammered as dread coiled in my gut. The figure stepped closer, revealing a stark visage etched with familiarity, an echo of my past reflecting off the ageless contours of this stranger. Then came the whisper, soft yet imbued with commanding intensity, you have to choose now, Emily. Not only for you but for those you love. Caught between Henry's dangerous allure, my mother's desperate pleas, and the enigmatic newcomer's pronouncement loomed, a storm of unexpected possibilities cascaded before me. The air thickened with apprehension, and my heart trembled as the edges of fate unraveled. The crucial moment rested heavy upon my shoulders. Choice was not merely an option, but the defining crucible of my existence. Standing on the brink of revelation, I climbed over the threshold of uncertainty, and the echoes of my life reverberated within me. The shadows deepened, stretching around us like the arms of a hidden monster, as the figure before me seemed to absorb the last shimmers of light from the living room. I could barely breathe, caught between the weight of my mother's open-mouthed fear and the chilling allure of the stranger's presence. "Choose now, Emily," he implored again, his voice an eerie harmony that entwined with the wild whispers of the wind outside. "You were fated to decide. And your choice will echo across generations, like ripples in a vast, hidden ocean." That I took a faltering step forward, instinct pulling me toward him, but my mother's grip on my arm tightened with an urgency that sent tremors through my resolve. "Emily, don't. Please." Her voice shattered like glass, raw and desperate. Henry, usually unfazed, took a half-step back, a myriad of emotions flickering across his face: wonder, curiosity, and something deeper, laced with concern. "Do not let his theatrics blind you, Emily. The story he tells may be nothing but a dark fable." His words hung in the air like smoke, yet something in me shifted, whispering difficult truths. The hooded figure moved closer, each step unveiling more strokes of recognition on his face. "You've grown so much, Emily," he said softly, the familiar cadence of his voice striking a chord deep within me that I thought long lost. "But there's danger in your search for the truth tangled with secrets that could devour everything you hold dear. What do you know of my truths?" I shot back, the heat of defiance igniting my veins even as fear lapped at my resolve. He hesitated, a fractal of pain passing through his eyes. "I know the broken stories that bind your past to your future. Stories of love, loss, and the heart's resilience. Much like this bracelet." He reached into the depths of his coat, retrieving an object that glimmered under the remnants of the room's light. A simple bracelet, yet its delicate charm radiated a warmth that pulled at my heartstrings. Nostalgia coursed through me, memories of a time when someone I loved wore it, a piece of my childhood, a remnant of my grandmother's laughter. "Why grandmother's bracelet?" I whispered, as the world started to spin. How do you have this?" He took another step forward, a look of sympathy washing over his features. "Because it has always belonged to you. I was sent to bring you back to where your legacy began, to pieces of your family's hidden history." "That I don't trust you," I admitted, swallowing hard, but a glimmer of curiosity sliced through the thick fabric of uncertainty. "Why should I?" "Because secrets are not meant to be locked away, Emily. They should be unraveled, like this bracelet." He delicately opened the clasp, exposing hidden symbols inscribed within the charm, the language of our family that I had always longed to understand. Glancing toward my mother, her expression sharpened into a million shards of worry and dread. "They want something from you, Emily. The moment you start unveiling your past, they will claim what they feel entitled to. You don't even know this man." Henry placed a gentle, yet insistent hand on her shoulder, offering her shaky frame some measure of comfort as he shot me a look filled with warning. "This is about more than the past, Emily. What is more significant is the present." But the shadows seemed alive, swirling with secrets beneath the weight of the shining bracelet. I could feel its call like a restless spirit inviting me to chase the unknown. "Then tell me who you are," I demanded of the stranger, my pulse quickening. "Tell me why it matters." He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if ensuring we occupied this fragile moment alone. "I carry the burden of a story that connects us all. What you uncover can change the course of your life forever." Just as my heart began to race with electric anticipation, drowning in the promise of revelation, I felt an abrupt chill run through the air, saturating every molecule with dread. "What do you mean?" I whispered, the words tumbling painfully from my lips, but moments like these are eclipsed by fear. The sudden shriek of sirens crescendoed from a distance, a savage reminder of the urgency encircling us. The night became a vivid tapestry painted with unforeseen danger. "Emily," my mother implored, tears gleaming in her eyes like stars against a backdrop of midnight. "Whatever happens next, you must promise me. Trust your instincts." With a sharp inhale, I positioned myself at the precipice of my choice, heart racing as I raised my hands toward the bracelet. As soon as I touched it, an electric current surged through me, binding my fate to this moment and the shadowy past it encased. "Do you really want to know the truth?" the figure asked, his voice imbued with a haunting quiet. Before I could respond, the world erupted into chaos. The door swung violently open, slamming against the wall, revealing a figure soaked in moonlight, a ghost I never thought would return. My breath hitched as recognition washed over me, a lost part of my life, a face that lingered through unshed tears in my dreams, leave her alone. The figure shouted, a fierce protector against unseen evils, yet the voice felt all too familiar. With one glance, the enormity of my choices pressed hard against my heretan unfinished legacy, and a choice strung with peril loomed before me, tipping the scale between unraveling the past and preserving the fragile bonds of love. I stood frozen at the threshold of my life, wrestling between shadows and light, the past and the future intertwining like vine roots reaching for air. The face I recognized was familiar, yet marred by years of absence. It was Andrew, a childhood companion, a part of my life that vanished without a trace when my world turned upside down. "Emily, I'm here to bring you home," he declared, his voice steady, anchoring the storm pulling at my heartstrings. The emotions flared, the dreams of shared laughter, late-night conversations under starlit skies flooded back like the violent bend of an untamed river. "What do you mean?" I managed, my voice quivering, consumed by a tempest of disbelief and swirling hope. That he stepped forward, an unwavering gaze fixed on me. "There are answers to all those questions in your eyes, but we must hurry. They're coming for you." The weight of uncertainty festered within me. But the unyielding spark ignited by Andrew's emergence began transcending the fear that had entrapped me like a spider in its web. Torn between the assurance of familiarity and the frail threads of trust, I felt my mother's grip tighten beside me, her protective essence radiating caution. "Andrew," she called, her voice a fragile thread holding our collective fear, "we don't have time for this." Desperation laced her words as she surveyed the darkening doorway. "Listen to me. You're in danger, and I know about the secrets surrounding your grandmother's legacy, the very stories that could tear this family apart," he insisted, his intensity eclipsing both our trepidations. "But there are those who wish to keep them buried, and I'm not just talking about Henry." "Henry?" I echoed, the name curdling in my throat. "He knows things about our past, things he isn't telling you," Andrew countered firmly. "You must decide, Emily. You can either face the truth with me, or let it consume you while playing into his hands." The urgency in both their eyes sent electric pulses through my veins, igniting a fragile flame inside me. "But who are you to demand trust?" I countered, fueled by the instinct to protect my heart from the danger they both represented. "You show up after years and expect me to follow you, because I've seen the darkness lurking in the corners of our lives," Andrew pleaded softly. "The things that kept you awake at night, the family stories silenced by fear. We need to face them together. I don't want to lose you again." In that moment, echoes of memories sculpted within my heart filled with laughter, joy, heartbreak, and love reminded me of the bond we once shared. The threads binding my heart to Andrew were singed, frayed, yet somehow still tied a fabric colored by longing and resurgence. But did I dare dismiss the shadow cast by Henry? I turned to my mother, seeking her resolve, and found her watching me with a mixture of hope and fear, shimmered by the worry etched in her brow. "We have fought so hard to protect our family, Emily. But sometimes protecting them means facing the storm rather than hiding from it," she whispered, her voice pleading yet firm. "Could I unleash the truth? Could I risk the very foundation upon which my life had been built, this protective cocoon spun from my mother's fear, woven tightly lest it unravel? Perhaps it was time to embrace the truth, no matter how piercing." Faced with the echoes of my past, I felt the weight of both their worlds hang around me like a storm cloud, thrumming with possibility. With a decisive breath, I whispered, "I want to know the truth." The moment hung suspended in time, and I could see the storm brewing behind Andrew's eyes shift into something else, a flicker of resolution that washed away the familiar, replaced by the man he had become. "We must move quickly, there's no time to waste," he urged, glancing nervously toward the chaos outside. The doorway beckoned, shadows carved from uncertainty, yet in that very moment, something remarkable unfolded within me. I felt the fragile bracelet guide me as if the fate entwined in its charms could unlock hidden doors and reveal the mysteries of the past. "Let's go," I affirmed. "Resolute in my choice, are you sure?" my mother asked, words trembling like leaves caressed by the wind. "Yes," I affirmed, this time with heart-fueled conviction, intertwining our histories with newfound hope. "I'm ready," and as we stepped outside, the night pulsed with vibrance, a tangible reminder that beneath the shadows lay truths waiting to be illuminated, a legacy yearning for the lost fragments of love and acceptance to reconfigure into something extraordinary. The curtains drew back on my grandmother's tapestry, shimmering with the brilliance of the stories she left behind. But as we ventured past the edge, a frail hint tickled the air, the pulse of choices echoed within us, truths unveiled, blankets of reconciliation, the tenderness of love bestowed with vulnerability. Only time would reveal what lay on the other side of that door, but I felt emboldened, ready to carve a place for my heart firmly amidst the chaos. This journey was not just about uncovering a tangled inheritance, it was about forgiveness, reunion, and accepting our entwined stories, flickering with the very essence of life and love, always both gentle and fierce. Waiting to embrace us. We stepped into the uncertainty of the night. The echo of my grandmother's words resonated in my mind. Love, dear Emily, is an unstoppable force. It lifts the veils, unearthing the buried dreams of generations gone. And in that universe swirling around us, the glimmer of hope soared above all else, reminding me as the echoes of history harmonized, I was never alone. Truth, love, and acceptance intertwined beneath the night sky, painting the map of my destiny along with every step I took. My heart soared as the horizon expanded before us, beckoning with a shimmer of possibilities. And finally, as the shadows began to fade, I whispered into the night, we are the legacy of love, and our story has just begun.